It's time to sit back, relax, and listen to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life will inspire, motivate, and empower you. Live your best life now. Listen, learn, think, and decide. Change your attitude, change your life. And now, here's your host, Joan Herman.
Welcome to Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. You're listening to us in your neighborhood, from coast to coast, and around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joan Herman, author, speaker, and your host. For 4 years, Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life has been bringing you interviews with some of the most inspirational and influential people in the world. It's our goal to educate and empower you so you can live your best life now. Thank you for taking time for yourself, and thank you for letting us be a part of your life. We have another great show for you today. Today's guest, Bonnie St. John, has struggled throughout her life to find her joy. Bonnie lives her joy despite challenges including the amputation of her right leg, child abuse, divorce, and single motherhood. She defeated those challenges and went on to win silver and bronze medals as a ski racer in the 1984 Paralympics, to graduate from Harvard, to win a Rhodes Scholarship to Oxford, and to receive an appointment from Bill Clinton to the White House National Economic Council. Bonnie's the author of 5 books and is a speaker, television and radio personality, business owner, and mother. NBC Nightly News calls Bonnie one of the 5 most inspiring women in America. Hi, Bonnie. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Joan, this is great. Actually, it's funny. I want to immediately take issue with something you said. You said finding joy is a lot of hard work. And it actually doesn't have to be a lot of hard work. Joy that's accessible. All you have to do is turn to your coworker. If you know that time when you're starting a meeting and people are gathering around the table, turn to other people and say, hey, tell me one thing that brought you joy recently. They will start telling you things, and you will feel more joyful. They will feel more joyful. Have you ever noticed when you're at work, you never have to ask people to complain? You know, hey, can you guys complain a little bit for me? But to actually stop and ask people, say, tell me something that brings you joy. It changes the air. It changes the energy.
Bonnie, when did you learn this? Because to back up for a moment, you've really overcome some major obstacles. You've lost your leg when you were a young child. What led up to that? What was the decision that, made the doctors amputate your right leg?
Well, it was a birth defect. When I was born, my legs looked normal, but I was missing a growth center in my thigh, and so my leg didn't grow. My thigh is still only about 4 inches long. And so it was fine, but the bigger I got, the more difference there was. I had orthopedic shoes and braces, and finally the doctors convinced my mother they really needed to amputate my legs so I could wear an artificial leg, which is what I do now, and I get around. So I've had an artificial leg for many, many years and became an athlete.
Why a skier? Why a sport that was so dependent on leg strength?
Well, it turns out that there's a very vibrant circuit of amputees that ski. So I was racing against other one-legged women. It was a fair fight. For me, now we see amputee runners, but a lot of the runners you see who are amputees, they have knees. So they're amputated below the knee. If you're above the knee, running is harder. And there are people who do it, and they embarrass me, so I can't say I can't do it because there are people who do it. But I don't love running. Skiing doesn't require you to run. So you can ski on one leg on one ski, and you can go fast, and you can race. So a lot of one-legged people do it. And so for me, it was a chance to be in a race, to be an athlete. In high school, I was never going to make a track team. I was never going to make the swim team with one leg, competing against other people on 2 legs. It was the first time I heard of a vibrant circuit that I could compete on. And at the time, I wasn't aware of any track or swimming events. It was earlier on. Now you see it everywhere, but at the time, I didn't know that there was any possibility of that.
Now, Bonnie, we're talking about being an athlete and overcoming that challenge, but you overcame child abuse. How were you able to ever get out from under that and go on to achieve the type of success that you have in life?
Well, it's funny. The book that we're talking about today, Live Your Joy, I wrote it because people kept asking me. They said, you had your leg cut off. You went through all this painful therapy to learn how to walk again. You were sexually abused as a child. Your father left before you were born. You were divorced, a single mother. You should be an axe murderer by now. And there were times I was tempted. So I wrote the book, Live Your Joy, to really share with people. These are the things I did and I learned to overcome, to choose joy on a daily basis. And healing from the abuse in my childhood is probably one of the hardest things I really had to do, because it is so painful on an emotional level. There's physical pain of learning to walk again, but the emotional pain is so intense. You really, the temptation to drink or run away or something, is so intense. And it really came up for me when I had a daughter who was the same age as I was when I was being abused. So I had shut away a lot of the feelings for most of my life. But to be a mother and have to care and be open and tender and vulnerable with this little child and not deal with the memories was impossible. So for me, what came up is if I want to be a mom, I've got to deal with the bad stuff. And so that gave me the strength to do it. I wish that I had done it before I became a mom, that I had cleaned up the emotional mess, but I don't think I would have had the strength to do it.
But you figured out a way to take your pain and take your challenges and use them as a fuel to provide the determination and the motivation to go on to these successes later on in life. Have you adopted the philosophy now that nothing can stop you?
Oh, no. I know some motivational speakers take that view, is sort of, burn the boats behind you. There's one thing, you have to do it and stick to it. I don't know that that's a joyful life. For me, I write about having a portfolio of goals. You don't invest all your money in one thing and say, this is it. That would be crazy. You look at your time and your talent and your treasure, and you have many dreams in your portfolio. And if something is working, maybe you invest more in it. But if something's not working so much, maybe you cut back your investment. And, I wrote a children's book once. I've never published the children's book. There's lots of things that I don't necessarily push forward. I have many dreams, and I work on them in different ways, and I do what makes the most sense. I think sometimes it makes sense to cut your losses and move on to something else, don't you?
I do, and what I do now is I've kind of adopted this philosophy that I'm going to just give anything a try, because if it doesn't work out, so what? And like you said, you just move on to something else. You don't dwell on what didn't go the way you wanted it to go. You learn from it and move on.
And you don't have to beat yourself up. If you have a portfolio of goals and dreams, then you don't have to beat yourself up just because one didn't work out.
Bonnie, from where do you derive your strength? What is the role of faith in your life?
Oh, my faith is really important to me. When I was going through the healing from abuse that I was talking about, I did many things. I went to therapy, I did yoga, I took long walks. But for me, the prayer, and I really learned a lot about prayer at that time and really embraced prayer. That gave me the strength to keep doing the things I needed to do. I don't know without prayer that I would have had the strength to stick in doing the work.
You have a new book out, and that's entitled How Great Women Lead. And I would assume that for this book, you had the opportunity to interview some really remarkable women. Who are some of the women that are featured in your new book?
Oh, my gosh. We talked to Hillary Clinton. We went out and sat with Condoleezza Rice at Stanford. The chairman of Deloitte, the head of a movie studio in Hollywood. But early on, when I was talking to my daughter and saying, hey, let's do this book, one of the first things she said was, Mom, if you just do famous politicians, we also did the president of Liberia. She said, if you do famous politicians and business leaders, and that's all you do, a lot of people won't feel like the book is for them. And so we also included a fighter pilot, an orchestra conductor, a fashion designer, and even a stay-at-home mom and a teenager. And talked about how women are leading in all different ways everywhere. And really, we wanted to see everybody, have everybody see themselves reflected in the women that we talked to.
Bonnie, from your research, how would you define a leader?
It's interesting. We asked each of the women that. So in each chapter, you get their definition of what a leader is. If I had to pull it all together, what they say, basically they're saying leaders are people who pull the best out of other people. So if you're leading a team, it's getting that team of people to each put in their best talents, to work with each other well, and to produce the best results. And often, if given that that's true, what women leaders are doing is developing other leaders. So they're developing other people that bring out the best in other people. And that, and then you're bringing out the best in people on a large scale.
What similarities did you find among those women that you interviewed? Did they all have certain traits that predisposed them to achieve greatness?
I would definitely say not. That they are so different in different ways and different personalities. And my daughter, Darcy, found that so inspiring because she realized when we got in the process that she had a stereotype that leaders had to be a certain way or be a certain thing. She wasn't sure that she wanted to be that thing that leaders were supposed to be. And what she saw was these women had such different personalities, and they brought their individual strengths to the table. And she thought, so I can be a leader, and I can be me. I can be the best me I can be, and be a leader from that place. And in fact, that's the only way you can lead, is out of your authentic values and out of your experiences. And that's why people want to follow you and respect you. There was a Harvard Business Review article about this where they did a study trying to find the uniform traits, and they concluded there aren't any. It's leaders are unique and they're themselves.
I find that to be very inspiring because that opens the way for anyone to go after their dream and make a mark on the world. Because I think people, they look at you and they say, oh, there's something different or special about her that I don't have. And I can never do what Bonnie did. But you're telling them that really we all start out on the same playing field, and it's just whatever path we take is what enables us to achieve greatness.
Exactly. And again, my faith is important to me. So why would God have created you if he wanted you to try to be like me? He would have created three of me's if that's what he wanted. Each person is so special that when they bring their special God-given talents, personality to the mix, and you got to work to, leverage what you have to practice. If you have a skill, you got to practice it. But bring that to the table. That's what's needed is you, not you trying to be somebody else.
Now, Bonnie, you've spoken about your teenage daughter, Darcy, and you've written a book with her. What advice do you offer to your daughter and to other young people about being happy in life?
It's great that you asked that question because when you were talking, too, about having a single goal and just driving forward all the time, one of the things I realized writing this book is that positive thinking isn't the same as joy. That positive thinking, you can be driven and have goals and you make things happen. And I've met people like this who are just not joyful. And I've been in that place, too. And what I realized in writing the book is that joy is now. Joy is something you just feel in the present. It isn't something's going to happen in the future that's great. And so sometimes in the midst of all your positive thinking, you need to just sit down and feel joy. Just appreciate the sunshine on your face. Sometimes it's about just sitting still and feeling something. We get to-do lists that are so long. What I came up with for myself is to say I need to make a to-feel list or add to-feel items on my to-do list. Otherwise, I just do all day and I don't feel anything.
I love when you use the term joy stealers because sometimes it feels like there are an endless number of people that are out there on a mission to steal our joy. And when we give so much of our power to the external, to other people, I think that's when we set ourselves up to have these joy stealers have so much impact on us. So how can we deal with people that are on a mission to steal our joy?
The simple answer is don't choose to spend so much time around them. But that isn't always possible, right? If it's your mother or your husband or your children, you can't always just say, well, don't spend time around them. One piece of advice I give to people is balance it out. That if you have one joy stealer in your life that you need to spend time with, make sure you're spending at least as much time with joy givers, joy nurturers. So cultivate a circle of friends where you can have that positivity and they can help fill you up and focus on your joy. And then you can come to the other person with a different attitude.
Bonnie, what was it like to have competed in the Olympics and to have been a part of something that grand?
That was my dream for many years, just to make the U.S. team, never mind win medals. For me, I just wanted to be a part of it and to be on the team, to be flying to Innsbruck, Austria. It's incredible. It's so much better now for the disabled athletes. They really get to use the Olympic Village and have the same uniforms and do all the things the other Olympians get to do. But so even though I had a scaled-down version of it, I was just happy to be representing the United States of America.
Bonnie, in about 30 seconds or less, what is the one thing you want our listeners to remember from this interview?
We are larger than we think. We are stronger. The human spirit is so strong. If a one-legged African-American girl from San Diego can become an international ski racer and to heal the issues we've been talking about, too, anything is possible. And we can be so much more than we think we can. So just to encourage everybody to find the greatness inside themselves, even if it means being a stay-at-home mom, being a great stay-at-home mom, being great for yourself, being great for your kids, even if it means being a CEO or head of the country, wherever you are, just be the best you can be and enjoy it.
Bonnie, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I love your energy and I love your story. You are so inspiring. I'm sitting here with a smile. I had so much fun speaking with you today, so thank you.
Thank you, too. Thank you for all you're doing and spreading the good energy.
We'll be right back. It's time for this week's Medical Minutes. Joining me today is Dr. Michael Gross, the Medical Director of the Active Center for Health and Wellness, the founder of Active Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, and the Chief of Sports Medicine at Hackensack University Medical Center in Hackensack, New Jersey. Dr. Gross is the author of the new book, Get Well Soon. Welcome, Dr. Gross. Thanks for joining us today.
Joan, as always, it's a pleasure to be here.
Dr. Gross, winter is here, the temperatures outside are dropping, and people are still outside exercising and taking part in winter activities. What happens to the body when exercising outdoors in cold weather, and what are some things that we really need to be mindful of?
Well, I think, simply put, what happens to the body when you're outside exercising in cold weather is you get cold. And that has a certain number of effects on the body, and there are certain ways to avoid that. Unless you want to begin exercising by running at the mall in the morning or running on a treadmill indoors all winter, there are certain precautions that you have to take if you're going to exercise outside. Number one, the majority of your body heat is lost through your head. So it's very important to wear a hat. A ski cap or a simple hat will prevent a great deal of heat loss through the top of your head, and that's an important addition to your workout gear if you're exercising outside in the cold weather. Gloves are also important because the second place where you lose a lot of body heat is through your hands and fingers, because that's where there's the most blood flow, in the head, in the scalp, and in the hands and fingers. So a light pair of gloves is very important. It's also important to dress in layers so that your sweat can evaporate off your body and wick out through the various layers, the same way you would if you were going out skiing or performing any sort of activity outside. You're much better, you're much more insulated if you're wearing layers, not just one heavy coat.
Doctor, exercising in cold weather, are there special warm-up exercises that we should do, or can we follow our regular, even warmer weather regimen?
I think it's important to stretch before you go out in the cold weather, to spend a little time getting your body warm so that you go out. People tend to be a little stiffer. It's never been shown scientifically that you're stiffer and get more injuries, but we sort of know intuitively that if you're going to go out in the cold weather and you warm up beforehand, you'll feel better, you'll perform better, and you'll be able to get through your workout with a little bit more enjoyment.
What about dehydration? We tend to think of that in the warm weather, but is it possible to become dehydrated in the cold weather?
Joan, that's a great question. People seem to think for some reason because it's cold they're not sweating. And you can sweat tremendously by exercising in the cold weather, particularly if you're dressed well. So it's very important to keep your fluid levels up while you're exercising. And always to remember, if you wait until you're thirsty to drink water, you've waited too long, because that means you're already dehydrated. So it's important to keep your fluid levels up both before you exercise and while you're exercising.
As a sports medicine physician, are there specific injuries that you tend to see more of in the wintertime?
Well, obviously, we see a lot of slip and fall injuries. People fall on the ice, and they can fall, and they can break their wrist. They can fracture any bone. So anything that you can hurt on a slip and fall, we see. We see pulled muscles from people who are overexerting themselves. But it's sort of interesting that we see really the same injuries year-round. People are doing the same things. They may not be as careful when the weather's cold. I think it's very important that if you're going to be exercising in the wintertime, and really even in the summertime, it's important to know what sort of weather you're going to be encountering when you get outdoors. So watching the weather report, knowing how hot it is, knowing how cold it is, knowing the humidity, those are all important factors to help you avoid injuries and to dress appropriately, to exercise appropriately when you're going to be outdoors.
For more information about this topic or to learn how to live a more active lifestyle, you can visit Dr. Gross's site, activeorthopedics.com, and to learn how to achieve true wellness in your life, get a copy of his new book, Get Well Soon. It's available on Amazon.com. Dr. Gross, thank you so much for spending time with us today. As always, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Joan, thank you as always for inviting me.
We'll be right back.
It's time to experience wellness care with your children. I always wondered why a mom would go to their chiropractic doctor to work on their health and leave their kids home and neglect their spines. Then I learned how many reasons there were for these habits. There are many, but the main one is simple. People are largely uninformed about the value of small, gentle chiropractic adjustments for kids. In fact, many of our moms in our practice are educating their pediatricians about their kids' chiropractic experience. If you happen to discover the benefits of chiropractic in the middle of your life, you probably got started because something didn't feel right. You weren't the wellness patient you are today. Children don't often have spinal complaints, but at some point, the vast majority of adults do. So the question is simple. Why wait for the body to endure years of stress, neglect, and abuse before choosing to work on it? At your chiropractor's fingertips is the simplest, safest, most fun way for your child to grow up with a healthy spine. The only way to know for sure if it would be necessary is to simply get them checked. Ask your chiropractic doctor if they are specially trained in pediatrics and watch your child thrive at levels you couldn't possibly predict. I'm Dr. Michael Magwood. Reach out to us with great chiropractic questions at purebalancecenter.com or call 973-773-8244.
Ah, the smell of cookies baking in the oven. One of the great holiday smells in a home. There's nothing like fresh cookies during the holidays. Actually, any time is cookie time, but during the holidays, it's always special. Hi, I'm Chef Todd, here with a few of my cooking tips for baking delicious cookies. While making raisin oatmeal cookies, substitute the raisins with sun-dried cranberries and add a teaspoon of orange zest to create a Cape Cod-style oatmeal cookie. If you're making traditional chocolate chip and walnut Toll House cookies, replace the chocolate chips with butterscotch chips and replace the walnuts with macadamia nuts. This makes a wonderful Maui Hawaiian cookie treat. To keep your cookies soft and pliable, always take them out a little earlier than the actual baking time. Let cookies sit at least 15 minutes on a cooling rack before handling them. To add a little elegant touch to your cookies, frost them and top them with sprinkles. Or try a dusting of confectionery sugar after they cool. For more recipes, go to cookingwithcheftodd.com.
We all want to live a happy, productive life, but sometimes we need a little help. Our Coach on Call experts provide strategies to help you cultivate effective life skills. Joining me today is Carolyn Curtis, an image consultant and personal brand strategist from First Impressions Style. Carolyn, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Carolyn, women's closets are full of clothing, and yet studies show that we only wear 20% of what is in our closets, while in contrast, men wear 90%, and 2/3 of women's purchases are unplanned. So what is the number one complaint you hear from women when it comes to getting dressed in the morning?
Oh, Joan, I hear it all the time. I have a closet full of clothes, but nothing to wear. Now, this is followed with also by, I go to the store and I can't find anything that looks good on me. You know, what we wear is an expression of our personality and who we are. And, you know, as women, we put so much pressure on ourselves to look a certain way and to live up to certain expectation. You know, the fashion industry and retail establishments really don't make this easy on us, you know, especially if we're over a certain age or a certain size. Women can sometimes get so frustrated that they just give up or buy items that just hang in their closet and then they never get worn.
So what are your style commandments for being a smart shopper?
Oh, I have several over my years of experience here. Really starting with, and this is the step that most folks forget, is to have a plan and to do your homework. You know, starting with knowing what wardrobe pieces, what essentials are actually missing from your closet, and what styles flatter your body type. Now, of course, this means you need to understand what your body type is. Now, having knowledge of just these two areas will save you time, money, and a ton of aggravation. Followed by, you have to shop in your own closet first. As part of your plan, you know, take inventory. Do you already own 5 pairs of black pants? Then please don't go out and buy another one. And then see how you can mix and match the clothes you already have to create some new fresh outfits. Now, also, I see a lot of time in women's closets, these, what I refer to, orphan pieces. They have this piece, still has tags on it, but they have nothing to go with it in their closet. So make a note of these items so that you can shop for things to actually complete the outfit. Followed by, and this is really one of my key mantras, buy the best quality clothing you can afford. And I like to underline that word, afford. I'd rather you have fewer pieces that are of better quality. A way of building a wardrobe is to consider your cost per wear of the clothing. This gives you, an indication of how expensive something really is versus how often you're going to wear it. Now, instead of thinking of investment pieces, think of them as workhorse pieces. Those are the items that will be the foundation of your wardrobe and will continue to work for you for many years. Buy the classic pieces and build on them. And it's absolutely okay to mix high and low. Pair the luxury items with the less expensive items, because you also don't want an entire closet full of trendy items. At the end of the season sales or those sales you got to watch out for. It's not a bargain if it doesn't flatter your body type or work for your lifestyle. Also, when you go to look what's in your plan and look what's out in the stores, buy complete outfits with appropriate undergarments. There is nothing worse than getting home and you're all excited with your new purchase and realizing you have nothing to wear with it, or that you need a certain type of undergarment or shaper to go with it. And one thing that I also have to get through women's head a lot is size is not a measure of your self-worth. Fit is key when it comes to buying your clothes. Don't worry about what the size is on the tag. There's no standards anymore across the brands. So, a size in one store or one brand can be totally different in another brand. And the trick is you will actually look slimmer if your clothes skim you, not cling to you. And the same is true with don't buy oversized clothes trying to hide things. You will actually look slimmer again if your clothes skim your curves and they're not too big on you. Expect to alter your garments. Simple alterations can go from looking like you're, off the rack to really making it custom for you. If you have to buy fewer clothes to allow for the budget dollars for tailoring, it is absolutely worth it. And lastly, get professional style help if you feel overwhelmed or you just don't have the time to do this yourself. Getting advice on what you wear, how you wear it, and where to find it will save you not only time, money, and your sanity, but create a real return on your image investment.
If you'd like more information about Carolyn, you can visit her website, firstimpressionstyle.com. Thank you for joining us today. We hope you found the show informative. At Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life, we believe that knowledge is power. Take what you've learned, apply it, and live your best life now. Remember that this information is for educational purposes only and should never replace the advice of a professional who knows your personal situation. If you'd like more information, you can visit our website, cyacyl.com. That stands for Change Your Attitude, Change Your Life. While on the site, listen to past shows on demand, read the digital magazine, take part in the book club, sign up for the mailing list, and be sure to follow the show on Facebook and Twitter. Until next time, this is Joan Herman. Thanks for tuning in.